to just pay a little bit of attention for us to what Elon Musk and Donald Trump are saying. We're going to move on for a moment now to our next story. The Paris Olympics. If you couldn't get enough of this year's Olympic Games, well, you're just going to have to wait another 4 years for moments like this.
We've just witnessed the best female gymnast in the world finish up their routine for what will be the best team in the world at this Olympic Games. Bravo. Well done, America.
She has had a life scarred by trauma from a young age, growing up as a young gymnast, but now, after 4 gold medals in Rio, the crowd know that this will be another gold for Simone Biles and another gold for Team USA.
One of so many emotional and dramatic moments over the last couple of weeks. That was the BBC's Eleanor Oldroyd commentating as Simone Biles won yet another gold medal in the gymnastics. There is, of course, the Paralympics yet to come, but already many sports fans are turning their thoughts to Los Angeles, which is going, of course, to be the host of the next Olympic Games in 2028. Will that be as big, and can it possibly be as successful? And crucially, will it bring in the big bucks? Beacon Economics researched the economic impact for the Los Angeles Olympic bid, which the city initially hoped to host in 2024. Its founding partner, Chris Thornburg, is telling me what their original report estimated the Olympics would be worth to LA.
Our numbers back then for 2024 Olympics were somewhere on the order of about a $10.5 to $11 billion overall value to the local economy. Now those are in 2016 dollars, and we've had a bit of inflation since then. So it's easy to say, if you want to roll that out to 2028, that those numbers could easily be 50% higher than what our original estimates were. So perhaps something on the order of 15 to 16 billion dollars in overall benefit to the region.
To make that come true, you've got to be pretty austere, haven't you, about your spending? I mean, there has been a lot of criticism, hasn't there, of some of these major games, not just Olympics, but World Cups and other things, when countries have really gone big on building endless stadia and so on, and frankly have gone practically bust in the process. And they did not see the yield. They just did not see the yield, the return, and obviously they had a lot of white elephant buildings that they couldn't frankly fill with sports events after the Olympians had left.
Right. Well, the very good news is that is not going to be the situation here in Los Angeles. It's worth noting that the only profitable games of the last, very long time in the Olympics were actually here in Los Angeles in 1984. And I assume that this time is highly likely to also hit the, shall we say, point of profitability. The reason LA has a better time doing this than smaller cities is because we already have an enormous amount of resources available for these kind of games. Whether you're talking about the older resources, including, of course, the original Coliseum that hosted the 1932 games back in the day, and, of course, the venerable Rose Bowl, for example, in Pasadena, we also have a variety of new facilities, including, of course, the wonderful Staples Center downtown, or Crypto.com, or whatever it's called at this particular point in time, the brand new SoFi Stadium, and a brand new basketball stadium for the Clippers. So plenty of places to do the events.
Right, so plenty of places to do the events, but here's the argument that the skeptics come up with, which is, where's the actual profit? Because when you're looking at Paris, when you're looking at Los Angeles, when you're looking at Tokyo or London, these major cities that are hosting these games, it's not as though they're not on the map already, is it? I mean, everybody knows about these places. They're one of the #1 global tourist destinations as it happens beforehand. So why do they need an Olympics? What does that actually have? What value does it have?
Well, look, you do pack, of course, every part of the city with all sorts of visitors for the games themselves. One of the great things I think about the Paris Olympics was just seeing how everybody turned out and how excited everybody was. And I anticipate that that's going to be the same here in Los Angeles as well. And candidly, while tourism has come back at some level to Southern California, candidly, it's not as dramatic as it was even in, say, 2017, 2018, prior to the pandemic. Again, I think this will go some way to yet again reminding everybody just what a wonderful place California is, and to be a great opportunity to show off what we have.
That's Chris Thornburg talking there about the Los Los Angeles Olympic bid. Sushma Ramachandran, listening to that, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We tend to talk about money often around these games. A lot of money was spent on the Paris Games. It was one of those that's been overspent, according to some reports. Do you think that it is possible to bring in a cashback with confidence that you're going to actually make a profit as a city out of these things, or is it just a more intangible benefit that they're all seeking?
If you look through the information flows about cities which have hosted Olympics or even other types of games like the Asian Games in India and other things, I think very few have really good profits, and I think it's more a prestige factor that in our city we have this, and of course what has happened, I mean, for instance, in the Beijing Olympics or in India when we hosted the Asian Games or the Commonwealth Games, you had the development of a lot of long-term assets in terms of stadia and in terms of sports facilities or other facilities in upgrading the city per se. Delhi, for instance, completely changed after the Commonwealth Games. Of course, a very small little side, like way back in the 80s when we had the Asian Games. That was the time, for the first time, Rajiv Gandhi insisted on bringing in color television. We only had black and white at that time. So color television was brought in just to see the Asian Games. But if you look at countries around the globe, I think it's the establishment of these assets, the upgradation, because every city wants to look its best. And of course, Paris tried to be very environmentally friendly and tried to have assets which were existing and tried to be environmentally friendly. I don't think that went down well with athletes.
Okay, thank you, Sushma. For now, we're going to move rapidly on because we're hoping to hear more from Elon Musk and Donald Trump. So I want to ask a quick question to both you and Tony. When was the last time you went to a theme park? Very excited. I'm not sure if that's the people actually on the theme park ride or the ones screaming at them to make them feel doubly excited. The reason I'm asking these questions is that this numbers are now down. Some of America's biggest attractions, and others like Disney parks are reporting customers are spending less. Disney is a massive new experiences over the next 10 years just to win them back. I've been talking to someone who might have one of the best jobs in the world about all of this. Carissa Baker, she's an assistant professor at the University of Central Florida where she studies theme park and attraction management. Now there's a discipline. I asked her why theme parks are finding things tough at the moment.
Well, there's a couple of things that we've seen. The first one is kind of post-pandemic. We saw a pretty big surge in demand because of that pent-up frustration of not being able to visit your amusement parks. But that's kind of tapered off a bit. I think we're kind of returning to the norm. But then this is kind of the triple threat here of that, as well as inflation, which is certainly putting pressure on families throughout the world. And then the weather has been quite poor this summer.
Yeah, okay, there's always the weather, and we get these extreme weather events, which obviously can be a deterrent, but it is also extraordinarily expensive, isn't it? I mean, when you add on the cost of the passes to skip queues and all the rest, you can be spending, what, $500 or more for a family of 4, just for a weekend or over a day trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should say we've done a few studies already looking at the fact that there has been inflation hitting the parks all throughout the world. So this is not just a problem in the US or Europe. It's really global right now.
What about Disney? I mean, what are they planning to do to deal with this?
So Disney has kind of taken a couple of strategies that some have been quite effective in the past. One of them is just building new investments, making it continually appealing for guests to want to visit these parks. And then the other is kind of vacation packages, incentives for particular guests like locals or annual pass holders or credit card holders and things like that, to kind of encourage those guests to come during off-peak seasons and just other times where maybe the price is not quite as hefty.
So we've got Disney Paris, Shanghai, we've got Florida, of course, and California. Where else are we going to see Disney theme parks. Perhaps we should be warning people.
I mean, I think right now they don't plan to currently expand beyond the 6 major resorts that they have right now. And they do have the 2 in the US, the one in Paris, the one in Tokyo, one in Hong Kong, and one in Shanghai. And right now what we're seeing is all of those new investments that are going to roll out over the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years are all in those existing resorts.
To theme parks.
I go quite frequently. In fact, I must say that I have visited all 12 of the Disney parks within the last 12 months, so you could say I'm a very...
You certainly are. I mean, I guess you get, you probably, I don't know, do you get a discount?
I do get a discount on Walt Disney World because I live in Florida, but otherwise, absolutely not.
So is it just, one last question, seriously, are Americans traveling internationally more? I mean, was it just a kind of domestic trip for people in America, especially to go somewhere local, or are they just now saying, you know, I really want to see a foreign city?
Yeah, I think we have seen a real uptick in international travel, especially with middle income and other travelers. And this is not necessarily all to theme parks, but I will say some of the things that we're talking about today could end up being helpful towards some of the local parks, because we tend to think of our Disneys, our Universals when we think about the theme park industry, but there's, you know, hundreds of local parks that are maybe not such a deep dive into the pocketbook, I should say.
Okay, that was Carissa Baker, assistant at the University of Central Florida. Tony, were you listening to that? Are you a theme park fan?
Very much, yes.
You are a theme park fan. Well, you're in Texas. Do you pop to Disney World? Where do you go?
There's a theme park in Texas called Six Flags, and the last time I went to one was in San Antonio, Texas.
Do you sense that people are changing their tastes, though, away from them?
I sense that theme parks have become prohibitively expensive over the last couple of years, and people are feeling that the wait times are really long and it's really expensive, and particularly the food in the theme parks is extremely expensive. So I'm hearing that it's a big splurge for people, whereas, you know, it used to be a stretch of the budget, but it didn't bite into things too much. But now it's biting into budgets a lot.
Interesting. Well, now we've just got a few minutes left, and I want to return to our main story today. Donald Trump returning to X in a sign that he is preparing to use the social media site as a megaphone, perhaps, for his campaign for the White House, the election in November. To mark this event, he's been holding a face-to-face interview with the platform's owner, Elon Musk, and of course we've had technical problems, but we have been hearing some of that conversation in the last few minutes. Here's a little clip of that.
The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was to those people that don't believe in God. I think we gotta all start thinking about that. You have to, you know, I'm a believer now. I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually.
That is Donald Trump talking about the attempted assassination against him, of course, last month. Tony, have you been watching some of this now?
I've been trying to. Yeah, I can't listen to it while I'm on the BBC, unfortunately, because you have my attention. But I'm trying to see as many posts about it as I can to figure out what's really going on.
Okay.
We spent quite a lot of time talking about the Secret Service and really praising them for the work they did with the attempted assassination.
Okay, let me talk to Nathan Lane then. He's a reporter with the news agency. Nathan, is it mostly the attempted assassination then? This is a very kind of soft pedal kind of conversation we're seeing.
Yeah, so far it's been a little more than 10 minutes, I think, and so far it's been primarily about the assassination attempt, and most of it, you know, Trump has gone over before. However, he is going into a bit of detail on what happened and how he perceived it, and you know, as Tony just said, commenting on the Secret Service as well.
How does Elon Musk come across as an interviewer here?
Well, he comes across as a friendly interviewer. I mean, we haven't heard the whole interview yet, but certainly the introduction and the first few questions were They're not hard-hitting questions, although, the topic is a serious topic, assassination attempt. So, so far it's not like he's giving hard-hitting questions, but I don't think we were expecting him to do that anyway.
No, indeed. Sushma, I mean, if you were jumping in on this, do you think that there is international appetite? Obviously, commentators in the US are saying, he's down in the polls, Donald Trump, relatively over the last few weeks because of the rise of Kamala Harris as the Democratic candidate. He's trying whatever he can just to get media attention, and this will do. I mean, is that all we should read into this?
Well, I've also been listening to this actually. I also got into the space, and I like Tony, I was trying to listen to a bit, but being on the program is just difficult. It all seems to be about about the shooting attempt on him. I think obviously the focus, very interestingly, being just on the shooting attempt, is obviously an attempt to sort of elicit sympathy for him and the kind of the concerns that people would have for a presidential candidate.
Okay, Sushma Ramachandran, unfortunately this is all we have time for. There'll be much more, of course, about that interview as it unravels, and we'll hear more on the BBC News coming up shortly. But Sushma Ramachandran and Tony Nash there in Houston, Texas, my thanks to you both, and thanks to you for listening. This has been Business Matters on the BBC World Service.
You're listening to the BBC World Service, and here's what's happening in the studio this week.
We're going behind the scenes of an Edvard Munch exhibition, traveling to the United States, Germany, and Norway. We'll find out what it takes for paintings worth millions of dollars to go on a journey, and how the exhibition evolves to suit each different venue.
In the studio, today at 12:30 and 21:30 GMT. In half an hour, assignment.
I'm Alex Last, and I'm in Arizona, where a kind of school revolution is underway. Here, parents who don't want their kids in public schools will get state funds to go private. So is this the future of education in America?
This is the BBC World Service, the world's radio station.
It's 1 o'clock GMT. I'm Jackie Leonard. This is the newsroom from the BBC World Service. President Zelensky of Ukraine says his military offensive inside Russia's western border region of Kursk is intended to force Moscow to consider peace. The billionaire Elon Musk is talking live to Donald Trump on his social media platform X just now. It started 40 minutes late, with Mr. Musk blaming a massive cyber attack. The European Commission has offered Greece its full support as it struggles to control wildfires approaching Athens.
A lot of the areas that are really badly affected you can't yet go to, but thousands of people have been evacuated. Hospitals have been evacuated.
Venezuela's government says opposition leaders are to blame for deadly post-election violence. Also, a remarkable discovery on Mars, deep in the rocky outer crust of the planet.
Potentially deep down 10 to 20 kilometers is a habitable place on Mars.
All here on the newsroom.
Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. A live interview between Donald Trump and Elon Musk is underway on X, following a delay due to technical issues on the social media platform. Many users couldn't access the live stream. The billionaire owner of the platform blamed the problem on a cyber attack. Once it got underway, Mr. Trump again described the assassination attempt against him.
I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was
park on the side there.
at the ear.
After that,
And because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, bullets, bullets, get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly, and we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down, so I'm glad I went down.
The Trump campaign is hoping to use the conversation to raise money for the Republican candidate. It comes as his Democratic opponent, Kamala Harris, has erased Mr. Trump's lead in opinion polls. President Zelensky of Ukraine has said that the offensive operations in Russia's Kursk region are intended to bring peace closer. He said that any attack was justified to force Russia into ending its aggression. Ukrainian military